not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and power, and glory forever. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So moved.
Next, motion made and seconded. The minutes of the previous regular and special meeting of the last council meeting be approved as submitted on the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
All right, let's get a blanket motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'd like to pull number 11. And any council member have any? 3 and 11.
Still working through the new ones I just got.
All right. I'll hold it just a second before I call the roll then. 3 and 11.
That's fine.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Number 3.
Yeah, would you read number 3 by title?
Yes, sir. This is a letter from Connie Woodard, General Manager of the North Little Rock Electric Department, regarding her retirement effective September 30th.
Move, accept, and file.
There's a second. And I think that goes without saying, too, that, we are very appreciative of the time that Connie spent with us, 30 plus years, and I know she had an automobile accident she was involved with several years ago, and that presented some challenges, and I know that if she was able, she certainly would enjoy continuing down here. So I know that by accepting and filing this letter of resignation, that with that goes our best wishes and certainly heartfelt appreciation for the dedication that she has done, or the dedication she has for this community, her job, and we certainly appreciate that, along with our best wishes for a continued recovery, and we send her our heartfelt feelings. All with that on motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Number 11.
Would you go ahead and read it in its entirety?
Yes, sir. This is a letter dated September 12, 2005. Members of the North Little Rock City Council. Dear council members, you will note that Connie Woodard of the Electric Department has officially tendered her resignation effective September 30, 2005. We certainly send to her our appreciation for her service to the city and extend to her our best wishes as she moves on into her retirement. I am happy to report that Joe Gertch, who assumed responsibility of the operation and management of the electric department, has agreed to become the general manager. As I am sure you are aware, Mr. Gertch is uniquely qualified to assume these responsibilities from an educational and practical standpoint. I am sure Joe Gertch's leadership will be of significant benefit to the department, ratepayers, and the city as a whole. I am recommending that Mr. Gertch's salary be set at $89,000 per year, with the effective date of his salary beginning July 1st, 2005. Your confirmation of this appointment and acceptance of the salary recommendation will be greatly appreciated. Sincerely, Patrick H. Hayes, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move firm the appointment and the salary. Yes. We all want to do that.
Yeah, I think without objection, I think all council members would like to be shown in support of Mr. Gertch as an asterisk to this letter. I think we all realize that we're going through some interesting times. We're very optimistic about the long-term benefit of our utility, but as we go through the ending of the contract with Duke and the interesting times that we face as we go into an increasing cost of power environment, that our recommendations with Plum Point, as well as the bright spots, although it doesn't seem like it's around the corner, but it's not too far for those of us who passed those years, and that's the paying off of the hydro plant in 2014, as well as those decisions that we make with regard to Plum Point and what we have to do in the renegotiation of contracts. So with that, Ms. Whitby, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Gibson?
Yes.
Bryant?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Joe, would you care to come to the microphone? You got a unanimous endorsement, and you know, we again appreciate Joe is an electrical engineer. I knew he received his law degree while he was with the electric department, and also has an MBA. So, you know, from an educational standpoint, as I said, and in addition, from a practical standpoint, educational is also including on-the-job training, and has been with our department for 10 years.
Yes, sir.
10 years, and the horizon is bright, but there are some waves that we'll have to navigate. And Joe, we appreciate your willingness to be a part of the team and continue the leadership down at the department and the long-term health of the department. We're confident that your leadership will certainly help us lead us through that. Joe?
Thank you, sir. I really don't have any prepared remarks other than to say that I appreciate the support of the mayor and the council. As the mayor mentioned, we have some fairly unique challenges ahead of us, and I anticipate that I'll be here many times over the next several years as we try to meet all those many challenges. Thank you again for your support.
We always look forward to seeing you, but we hope that your visits aren't as frequent as you may anticipate. We hope.
Mayor, with permission, I'd like to have number 5, or at least the attachment to that red.
That's fine.
I missed that as I was...
That's fine. No objection. Would you please, is this Bark in the Park?
Yes, sir.
All right, Ms. Whitby, I think you'd be happy to read Bark in the Park.
Certainly. You want the letter or the invitation?
Just the invitation, I think, is what Alderman Gibson.
Okay. This is an invitation from North Little Rock Friends of Animals, the North Little Rock Animal Shelter, and the North Little Rock Parks and Recreation Department. Presents their second annual Bark in the Park, September 17, 2005, rain date September 24, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., Burns Park in North Little Rock. There will have a doggy fun walk and contest registration from 10:30 till 11, a pet psychic, Charlotte Humphrey, IET Master Instructor from 11 to 3, pet photos from 11 to 3, a doggy fun walk from 11:10 to 11:30, Little Rock Dog Training Club from 11:30 till 12 noon, contest and raffles from 12 until 3 p.m., Canine CPR, Julie Coulter, North Little Rock Animal Control from 12:45 to 1 p.m., and North Little Rock Canine Police Force 2 to 2:30. Refreshments and all proceeds go to the North Little Rock Friends of Animals and the North Little Rock Animal Shelter.
With that, we've already accepted and filed, so we'll just invite everyone to come this Saturday and bring your bark, and feel free to bark in the park. With that, let me go ahead and let's instead of going to special call, unless there's an objection, we've got this zoning issue that I know there are a number of people that are here that are interested. We asked those who were going to be here to refrain from commenting if they were going to be able to be here, but we have some information that's come to light. Mr. Boyles, would you come to the microphone, please? We became aware of some procedural issues. Mr. Boyles did communicate that to me last week. The city attorney's office reviewed those, and I was contacted by their office this afternoon and indicated that based on what our findings were, that affects the legal position of the city with regard to the zoning classification out in the western part of our city that is the subject of the legislation that's currently before us, sponsored by Alderman Berry. And with that introduction, Mr. Boyles, I offer you the floor and then ask the city attorney's office to chime in about what you feel our position is vis-a-vis your rendition of what we've discovered.
Okay, this property was part of a zoning package adopted in 1985.
1985. And is that when the property came into the city, or was that,
No, this property is still in the county.
so this property is in the county?
It was part of the zoning plan in '85. In a '96, we started an effort in '96 to zone properties in that area that were unzoned. During that procedure, we had a neighbor come in and saying...
Let me just, before, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to, do we surround this property, or?
Yes,
So this is an island,
that's correct.
but this is in the county. This has never been officially brought into the city.
It is, and it's, all that area's been zoned.
Right.
So in that procedure, a neighbor objected to his property. He was wanting to use it more industrial, and we had a hearing through that, and the Planning Commission,
Can I get some dates?
that was in, finally, the ordinance was adopted in '97, and that was this property, Joe Tullis's property. Joe was the one saying that he had asked for his to be changed from R4 to I2. The land use plan then happened in 2000 to 2002. We adopted it. It basically kept the same plan. And then in this year, we adopted the zoning map, which we thought was correct. It reflects the previous R4 zoning for this property.
All right, just walk us through again now. This is in the county. When did we first do anything with regard to this property? What did we do?
This property was first zoned by the city in '85,
85. And what was the zoning classification?
R4.
R4, all right. What's the next action we took with regard to zoning?
On this specific property, it was '97. It was a part of this study that was done. It was added as an amendment, and his property was rezoned.
From R4?
R4 to industrial.
So what is
I2, light
I2,
industrial.
and that was in 90,
7. Ordinance 7064. And all I can say is under our new map, we've been operating with a lot of paper maps and digitizing those, putting those in a digital form. This was pointed out at a meeting.
no, wait, let me make sure, excuse me for keep asking questions, but it was brought into the city as R4. It was changed in 97 to I2.
Light industrial.
And was there any change in this council subsequent to 97?
There's been no other action on this property.
All right, now how did we get confused?
When we digitized the entire city map, apparently one of the old maps was used to digitize and designate this parcel back to the old R4 designation. And we've been using that map, and it's posted on the web now, and all can see what their property is. It's posted as R4. That was a mistake on the mistake of the staff's, because we haven't had proper procedure, notice, and those things involved to properly rezone the property. However, in this year, when we adopted that map, we're saying, for better or worse, this is our map. This is our zoning is a map and the rules to go along with the property rights. So it's a book and a map. And now we've posted those both on the web, and anyone can see what their property rights are based on what it's shown on the map, and then what their rules are or the zoning text.
So what you're saying is that this council acted in 97 to change the zoning from R4 to I2, and that there has not been any subsequent action by the council that would affect that, to your knowledge?
This year we changed, we adopted the map. In March, we adopted the map, and that map reverted back to the R4. It shows the R4 designation. And that's when people look at the map, they say, what is my property zoned? We tell them what it's properly zoned. And I hope we don't find many more mistakes like this.
So you're saying that in this year we adopted a rezoning classification that affected this property, and we've now changed it back to R4.
That's what happened when we adopted that map.
When?
March of 2005.
Okay.
So it's currently, I believe it's currently zoned R4 because we show that on the map. Now, we didn't follow the proper legal procedures to do that, in that we didn't inadvertently say this is a change on the plan. We were supposed to have brought all the changes, all the maps together, and had the latest version. But this one indeed does show that error.
All right, Mr. Carter?
Well,
Go up the way you can talk on that.
there in the map that was filed, I mean, I would agree that what's the property zoned right now? Well, the property is probably zoned right now, it's R4, but I'd say that it's subject to challenge. And what needs to be done? Well, I think what we need to do is to be able to, I mean, we've identified an error in our zoning map. We need to make sure that there's not any more out there. There may be, some other errors that are out there. And remedy those errors with a cleanup ordinance. Since we just found out about the problem, I mean, I don't think that we have a cleanup ordinance to be presented tonight. That would have to be something that would be presented at the next council meeting.
Well, let me ask you this. We've got an issue before us. The person or company is trying to acquire some property to use in an I-2 classification. And what you're just saying to me is that property is owned, in your opinion, I guess, perhaps erroneously, I-2. So we get R4. And R4, it's R4 now, but we've got a person or a company that's starting to acquire that for an I-2 use. Now the question is, if they go out and get a building permit for a concrete plant, what's our planning office going to do?
Well, I think we went out and filed a lawsuit based on this. We have a little trouble winning. We have some hurdles we'd have to surmount.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but again, if our planning department was requested to approve construction of a concrete plant, what do we do?
I mean, I don't see how we could enforce an R4's ordinance, even though we've established it as R4 right now. I think, I don't really see anything that would prohibit somebody from building a concrete plant or building anything else that's authorized in an I-2 zone.
And I understand you're going to come out with a written opinion later this week.
We are. I'd like to give clear guidance on it. I mean, it's an issue of property rights, and there are people with strong emotions on both sides of the issue, and we prefer to issue a written opinion, and also to make sure that we can develop some kind of cleanup ordinance and identify any other problems that are out there.
All right, does any council member have any questions?
If I might move it to the front, probably I'm going to withdraw it.
Well, without objection, then Alderman Berry's legislation, which is 0564. Would you read that, Ms. Whitby?
Yes, sir.
This is an ordinance to reclassify certain property located at 7501 Youngs Road in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas from R4 to I-2 classification by amending ordinance number 7697 of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas.
I realize we don't normally read it when a council member is inclined to withdraw it, but I want to make sure we knew that this was for the council. Alderman Berry?
And there's another couple of things that come in front of us tonight, a petition from the citizens from Mr. Russell Smith, which is going in public record, and a letter from Clackamas County Special School District. I just wanted to let them know that it's all going to go in public record with it.
Without objection. And Alderman Berry is withdrawing this legislation.
Mayor,
Alderman Hines?
we had some people that were here 2 weeks ago that this would be 4 weeks that they waited to speak about this. I'd like to hear from the opponents of this legislation concerning what their knowledge is about the zoning and that property out there
specifically those that may have owned property adjacent to that piece of property in question since 1985 or earlier. Let me, Alderman Height, I'm not going to oppose that, but, right now, we are, and I'll offer, but I'm asking folks not to ask questions. I mean, feel free to make a couple comments, but there is nothing in front of the council at this point to do anything. I want to repeat that. There's nothing in front of this council to do anything. So the status of, I know there was opposition to this legislation. This legislation is no longer before the council. Whatever is before us on this issue is before us as a result of actions that have already taken place. We will be happy. I know that there are strong feelings on all sides of this. We will be happy to make available, obviously, as we're obligated to do, but we'll facilitate that obligation in making available any of our records, any of the actions. Ms. Whitby, with regard to the city clerk's office, we're certainly not very pleased with the fact that apparently some mistakes took place, but there's nothing that we can do other than, first of all, indicate our unhappiness with the fact that our records aren't reflective of what we thought they were, and we apologize to the folks who have gone through a great deal of effort and a great deal of time to lead us to this point where there is literally no change that is now before this council. And having said that, I'll certainly offer the microphone to any who I offered or who I asked to wait. But I'm asking you again to recognize there's nothing before us. Having said that, the microphone's open. I'm asking you to be brief.
Mayor and members of the council, my name is Jim Hathaway, and I am here representing one of the neighboring property owners, Gene Pfeiffer, in response to Alderman Height's comments. There are a lot of people here who were ready to speak in opposition, and we're not, ease your minds, we're not going to do that given the circumstances because we understand what the mayor just said. Nevertheless, for the record, I would just like those who are opposed to this rezoning that we thought was on the agenda tonight to please stand here. Thank you. In addition to the number of folks represented there are the Pulaski County School District, the Arkansas Surgery Hospital, the director of the Arkansas ADEQ, Department of Environmental Quality, and several other large landowners in the area. I think you will find that universally there was strong opposition to this. I won't go into all the reasons. What I would like to ask is that, just a couple of questions. If I understand this, I still haven't heard how this property is zoned. I heard the planning, we've been relying, as any citizens would, on what we were told. And the planning director issued a recommendation to the planning commission, as would normally be the case, which said that this property is zoned R4. And it also said that the land use planning designation was commercial and residential. And that's what we assumed was the case. And the application was to build a concrete plant that is not allowed by right in that zoning classification. So, obviously, we were, and the applicant certainly didn't understand that, because the whole reason we're here is because the applicant was seeking a rezoning from R4 to I2. Now we're hearing at the 11th hour, oh, the property is now zoned to I2. Well, if in fact it was rezoned to I2 in 1996, and it's been on the wall, and we changed it in a few months ago by authenticating off of some map. My question is, well, what has the zoning been from 96, on forward? We have always understood, the man I speak for, Gene Pfeiffer, what the zoning was as R4, because that's what everyone understood it to be.
So if there is some opinion that says it was really I-2, I would urge you as a council to carefully understand the basis for that, because we certainly intend to determine what the basis was.
We obviously, with no action being taken, the history of this, as I said a little bit earlier, will be open and available. I am asking the city attorney's office, as it directs its opinion to us, to include, some indication, if they can, of the chronology of what Mr. Boyle just indicated, the zoning classification, the changing of that classification or those classifications, as well as the validity or lack of validity of whichever changes you may feel have gotten it in this position. I do believe that it's much better that we have discovered this, even though it's at the 11th hour, than to have moved forward and perhaps found out this through judicial decree when people have spent a whole lot more time and effort. So, as you can see, there are very interested people, as Mr. Hathaway indicated, on both sides. I understand that interest. This council was going to have to make a very difficult decision, and now with the apparent ambiguities, we hope that you can do the best from our city attorney's office to give us something that our property owners in that area will have some ability to rely on. In addition, Mr. Bowles, if you would search along with your department and to try to ensure that we don't cause people to go through this kind of a challenge with the with the discussions and the perhaps the decisions that are trying to be made based on erroneous information. We're not faulting anybody, but we're sure sorry it happened. With that, Mr. Hathaway, thanks. Mr. Hilburn.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, I'm Sam Hilburn. I'm an attorney here in town, and I live in that general area, just not very far walking distance. I have the benefit of having been assistant city attorney for several years here, and then the city attorney for a short period of time. It's my understanding, I found out about this about 4:30 this afternoon, it's my understanding from the city attorney that this was a comprehensive zoning ordinance. If he had adopted a comprehensive zoning ordinance in 2005, that is the law of the land until a court of law says it isn't. And no court of law has said at this time that that comprehensive zoning ordinance is not valid. Now, pulling it down, Alderman Berry has every right to pull it down, but by the same token, that property is R4, and all you have to do is, your people in planning or whoever issues building permits, they don't have to issue those. If they issue those, to me, they're issuing in violation of law, because it's zoned R4 until a court of competent jurisdiction says it's not R4. I believe it is R4. What I was told this afternoon was that because maybe he did not get an individual notice, the adoption of a comprehensive zoning ordinance does not require individual notice. You would be sending out thousands of letters to everybody affected by a comprehensive zoning ordinance. It doesn't happen that way. The law hasn't changed, I do know that. You adopt that comprehensive zoning ordinance, you put it on whatever these maps on the website and all that stuff, that's notice to the whole world. Everybody in the whole world then knows what it is. And that's the law. Now, let me tell you, so you'll understand why there's a lot of emotion out here. I've got one of my neighbors who's my next door neighbor. There's 2 warehouses behind him. Everything around him, it'd be like me standing in the middle of this room right here, is everything is R1. 2 guys come in and build 2 warehouses in his backyard. They said, well, you got to get rid of them. They're still out there. They've been out there 8 or 9 months now. And they told them to get rid of them. And then Mr. Bowles comes up and says, well, I'm not sure. Maybe I didn't give notice to Pulaski County of our extraterritorial. The law is the city has had extraterritorial jurisdiction for zoning for years. And he says, maybe we didn't publish it with Pulaski County. In 2003, y'all had a lawsuit where y'all sued a man to remove a billboard out there on Maumelle Boulevard. Y'all lost the lawsuit because
you didn't publish notice with Pulaski County about your extraterritorial jurisdiction, what had been zoned. So Mr. Vols had notice in 2003. That's what he needs to do. And now here we are in 2005 with warehouses in the backyard of my neighbor. They're coming before your planning commission tomorrow asking to convert these to houses. So these are 10 buildings. And they're going to want to put, if you put 700 square foot in there and cut a window in there, you can call that a residence, and the other 4,300 square feet is a garage. Now that's what they're going to be trying to do. That's what's coming up. This is what's happening in your planning. Now what I'm telling you is, and I asked, he has the right to pull it down. I would ask of y'all, you can't do it tonight, but you can do it the next council meeting. You can do it with your staff, as you don't issue any building permits. You can come in here and reaffirm that that property is R4. You can reaffirm that and give notice to the whole world by an ordinance. And you know, the adoption of the comprehensive zoning ordinance is notice to the whole world. It's R4. Now, if you give them that permit, to me, that's not the way to do it. You're elected to make hard decisions. This was a hard decision, and I understand for all of you. But that's what you're elected to do, is make those hard decisions. And these people don't need to be out there. You're going to ruin a whole lot of Commissioner Pfeiffer's development out there. There's a whole lot of money out there, a whole lot of money that's wanting to come in here, and that's certainly affecting that. I wish you could have heard the people who were going to speak tonight, and people who were talking about making multi-million-dollar investments who are now going to second-guess it if you let them build that concrete plant. But by just giving them a permit because you think they might lose a lawsuit. If I thought every time I was going to lose a lawsuit, I'd never go to court. You never know till you go. You just got to go do it.
Thank you, Mr. Helvern. We appreciate that, and I'm sure the city attorney's office, I am sure the city attorney's office will take that into consideration as they give us an opinion. You know, and you're right, we are elected to make hard decisions. I assure you we will do that. I want to welcome Marcus Devine. Marcus, would you please stand up? Marcus is the director, if you come to the microphone, the director of AEDQ, and I had the pleasure of joining Marcus out at our I don't know, don't want to call it an industrial park because it is changing its character, and with the building that Marcus is building over there and the state agency that's coming, the governor and I, along with a number of other people, along with Marcus, welcomed a number of folks to that area of our community. We're very proud of it, and we're certainly glad to welcome you, and we apologize for the circumstances of why we're finding our record not quite accurate. Thank you, Marcus.
I will be brief. My name is Marcus Devine, and thank you, Mayor Hayes, and members of the City Council. I'm the director of the Environmental Quality Department and also an attorney. And I'm here because of our concern about the space that we have now purchased in the North Shore Business Park. We will bring over 300 jobs to that area. We are currently in southwest Little Rock, and we decided to move over to this site because of its attractiveness and because of its placement, and because we think it really fit what we wanted. On this site, we'll construct a 115,000 square foot building that will be 6 stories, and that will also be the first dually certified building in the state that will be green building certified and also LEED certified. We also plan to have a park around our building out there that will be, I think, a jewel for the whole state. I know that difficult decisions have to be made and that you're put in a difficult position. In my job as the Environmental Quality Department Director, we face difficult decisions also. What we're comforted by often is the fact that our rules and our regulations are public and people know about them beforehand and they don't change in the midst of decision making. That, I think, allows us to let people know that they have some idea of where we're going and why. So I would encourage you as you go forward to make sure that that's always in the back of your mind, to make sure that what you do and what you have done is public so that people will have comfort in the decisions that you make. But thank you again, Mayor, and thank you, City Council.
We appreciate you being here and welcome you as a new professional resident to our community. The area that we're talking about, I think, and I'll just make this and then we'll go on this statement, is becoming a very difficult area as we move to ever increasing we'll say quality uses, and I'm not saying that concrete or blasting operation is not quality, but certainly conflicting. Maybe that would be the better use, or better terminology. Conflicting uses. We spent 3 hours at this council trying to bring residential and blasting into a line that we draw, and Alderman Parker, after the 3rd hour, was helpful in helping us draw that line. So, we do have challenges out there, and we will continue to try to make the best decisions that we can based on where we find ourselves. And I again apologize for the confusion, and I ask our city attorney's office to do the best they can to give us at least their opinion on where we are and what options we have.
Be happy to do it, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor, let's go back to the issue of issuing a permit. I would assume that we're not going to issue any permits until...
Well, I'll wait till we'll see what our opinion is from our city attorney. With that, let's go back to the special call.
Mayor, can we take a quick recess?
Yeah, let's take a
All right, 3-minute recess.
This can only be one way, because you got to close, you got to close right there. So there's enough room.
This is one of those, I think,
I believe it's what you sort of like curve, that will allow one-way travel.
special call, Ms. Whitby.
Yes, sir. This is a letter dated September 7, 2005. Honorable members of the City Council regarding special council meeting. Dear members of the City Council, this is to advise that we have called a special council meeting of the North Little Rock City Council for 7:05 p.m. on September 12, 2005 at the North Little Rock School District Administration Building, North Little Rock, Arkansas. The following will be on the agenda. Item 1, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor and city clerk to allocate $10,000 of community development block grant CDBG funds to assist the evacuees of the Hurricane Katrina affected areas who have come to North Little Rock to seek assistance and refuge, and for other purposes, sponsored by Mayor Patrick H. Hayes. Item 2, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor and city clerk to allocate funds from home funds to provide rental assistance to evacuees of the hurricane-affected areas who have come to North Little Rock to seek assistance and refuge, and for other purposes, sponsored by Mayor Patrick H. Hayes. Respectfully submitted, Mayor Patrick H. Hayes. And this is signed by all 8 council members.
Hey, Beth, you want to come on up here? Let me just ask you to read out resolution number 1, and then
Yes, sir.
ask for an explanation.
Okay, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor and city clerk to allocate $10,000 of community development block grant CDBG funds to assist the evacuees of the Hurricane Katrina affected areas who have come to North Little Rock to seek assistance and refuge.
Move for adoption.
Second.
All right, just briefly explain what we're doing.
Well, during disaster time, we are allowed to use some of our community development block grant funds to assist evacuees, and we've set aside $10,000 from our community development block grant funds out of the housing rehabilitation that we can use for medicine, bedding, and we've looked at using United Way. We've talked to them, giving the money or allocating the funds to them to use this for those services.
Now, they would use those funds in Pulaski County,
In North Little Rock.
in North Little Rock.
North Little Rock. We would specify that,
Okay.
people in our area.
Any questions?
I guess I was wondering why not the Red Cross?
We just selected United Way, that agency. We didn't pick one, wasn't any reason why we didn't pick Red Cross.
I know.
Is United Way designated for the, will this money, if it goes into United Way, it doesn't go out to all their agencies, it only
No,
goes
no.
to the hurricane relief?
Right.
It'd go like
It'd be go
that.
to the evacuees. It'd be go for specific for the evacuees
That are here.
that are here.
So when she says North Little Rock, we're not talking about like out in the county part of North Little Rock. We're talking about...
And it could be either way you want. I mean, if you want it to go broader than people who are right here in North Little Rock, it's whatever you wanted.
Here in North Little Rock.
Right, that's what we were thinking.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, people who are located right here are needing services right here. That's what we had in mind.
Okay.
Any other questions on the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry. Parker.
Yes.
Pike.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Could you read resolution number 2?
Yes, sir. A resolution authorizing and directing the mayor and city clerk to allocate funds from the home funds to provide rental assistance to evacuees of the hurricane-affected areas who have come to North Little Rock to seek assistance and refuge.
There is a blank. Let me ask for a motion.
So move.
The blank is an amount. We have $80,000 in home funds. Now, Ms. Bowman has told me that any expenditures out of this fund are clearly, and I'll let you go ahead and confirm that, clearly in all likelihood will be reimbursed by the federal government.
Well, we were told, HUD was told that FEMA was looking at giving up to $10,000 per family for housing, though that hasn't come about. So, I'm not for sure that's going to happen, but we were told that. And if that was so, we could have some type of agreement that if they did get that, they would reimburse us for the rental money that we gave them. Now, that might, in some cases, be a little hard to get, but we could have some type of arrangement so they could reimburse us.
Now, go ahead and just give a brief explanation. These
again-
home funds that we do have allocated, the $80,000, give me an idea of the impact that's going to have if we do some or all of that.
And again, that comes from our home funds, which would be looking at 3 houses that we would not, this comes out of 2004 funds, our home funds, that would be 3 houses that we would not rehabilitate this year. We do have our 2005 home funds still available, though. We would income qualify, which are all income qualified right now because none of them have any income. It would be tenant-based rental assistance, which would also, income would be their rent as well as their utilities we would pay for. The Housing Authority has agreed to help us in this area because they do vouchers already, so they've agreed to administer this program for us at no administrative cost, so they've been very nice to do that.
Have we had any requests at this point for any of these funds?
No, because they've not been aware. I have mentioned it to some of the volunteers, and there is a need for this, because my understanding, I think the Red Cross has given them additional 2 weeks hotel stay, but after that, several people will need some assistance for rent.
You know, subject to will of council, you know, we can always come back and add to this, so I might suggest that we put in $25,000 or some amount there.
Well, I was going to ask Mary Beth if she had an amount that you thought that would be appropriate for us to allocate at this point.
I had mentioned 80, but if you want to do a lower amount, that's fine, because you're right, we can always come back and amend. That is no problem.
See, one of the things we can always, when these get exhausted, if they are exhausted, then we can come back and add more to it if we wanted to. That's why I was thinking that we set aside roughly a third of what we have available. And then if that one becomes popular, but that's fine with me, whatever the council
Is this going to
wants
help 3 families? Is that?
No, I said that would be 3 houses.
Oh, 3 houses, okay.
Because we spent approximately $25,000. So if we did the $25,000, then we could come back.
I moved in, we appropriate from home funds $25,000.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, and I want to only just mention that we need to make sure that we do the real record keeping. I know Home Funds requires that. And if I understand that we're not only paying their rent for them, we're also paying all their utilities for them.
It's included, right, in the tenant-based rental system, it includes that.
Okay.
Wait a minute, Alderwoman Robinson and Alderman Williams.
$25,000 is not a lot of money. How many vouchers would $25,000 secure? For how many families? How many vouchers would that be? 3, 4?
I'm not sure and I'm not sure about the voucher program, so I'm not for sure, because I'm not sure they give it for the whole year, or you may know more on that. But I'll be glad to come back. If we see that that's not enough and we have such a demand, I'll be back.
And obviously, I mean, the reason I'm suggesting this, of course, it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference to me if the council wants to do something different. But, you know, we can always come back if this is popular and add to that. So, you know, I guess the major reason I was suggesting this is because then we have an ability to keep up with it. We can be told, you know, when we come back and ask for an addition, what some of these funds have gone to, so we'd be much more informed. So it's just simply a tool, as I see it, for the council to be kept informed of how this is progressing rather than do it all at once.
I understand that, but I guess what I'm looking at is even with housing or with the Housing Authority, normally the vouchers are given out on what, a first come, first served basis. Is that correct? And I know that there are some people that have been down and asked for vouchers, and I just hate for those people to, you know, since it's first come, first served, they may miss out again because there's some seniors that have gone down and, you know, so I guess what I want is some type of measure or something in place for those people that have gone down and been turned down, you know, one time or been turned down twice, where they can get ahead of the other people, because it is on a first come, first served basis.
I'm not
Following me, maybe.
Not closely.
Okay.
Are you talking about people who are coming in because of the hurricane damage?
Yes, I'm talking about the victims, the evacuees. Some have gone down to housing, and housing no longer has any vouchers, so they've been turned away. So now if we're going to appropriate some money for vouchers, I would like for those people that have been turned away to have an opportunity, you know, to be first in line to get the voucher.
And I don't know if the Housing Authority has their names, and if they do, and I don't know if they do, we'll ask them to see if they kept their names.
If there's any way people...
Joe Beth would have...
Yeah, Joe Beth we've been working with.
listing, but I just...
I hear what you're saying, and I certainly wouldn't object to that.
Okay.
And I'll get with Joe Beth and see if we have to contact them first.
The people that have lost everything ought to come first, in my opinion. I just don't mind telling you that I think the ones who've lost everything should be first.
In other words, again, what we're based on need, based on, I guess, people have been turned down. I think, Alderman Thomas and certainly Alderwoman Robinson are saying what I think we all probably feel, and that is there certainly ought to be a priority of consideration of those who have been turned down before, and at the same time, if there can be some assessment of need as we balance these funds, then when we come back to council, and if we need some more, we'll have a bit of a history of how you've been doing this. So if any other council members may want to give Alderman Witcher some guidance, we're open.
But Mayor, I was wondering if it would be appropriate to include language in this piece, in the resolution, that would indicate that we would not utilize this money until we had assurances from FEMA that we were going to be reimbursed.
That's up to the council. I know that that's what I was told initially, but apparently that's not, as solid as when I visited with Ms. Bowman. So that's up to the council.
That doesn't reduce the need, though, for it.
Yeah, there is a need. Mayor,
There's a
one of
need.
the big concerns of everybody, and I heard it so much last weekend, well, we'll just spend that, FEMA's going to reimburse us. And it doesn't happen that way. You can keep all the records in the world, but you're not ever going to get all that FEMA money back. We never have.
The one thing that, and I want to first of all acknowledge, like Frank Fretcher, for example, with Riverfront Wyndham and Riverfront Steakhouse made a $10,000 contribution that the city is going to try to administer with based on need. We had another contribution. We anticipate others that are going to be there in a fairly flexible fund that we can be able to address some needs, and we're going to try to be as judicious as we can with those funds. But, I think that we need to go forward. I would recommend, as you said, Alderman, not hoping for reimbursement, but not necessarily expecting it.
Because we're not going to get, based on everything we've ever done before, of course, we've never had one like this before, either. And I don't know how much money, the guy who was running the program quit today, so we got a new one to start all over with. But
Forced out.
yeah, that's okay. He can go back running the Quarter Horse Association or something, or whatever it was. But we can't expect this money to come back. I think we should start this program, and if there's the $25,000 is eaten up in 2 weeks, or the commitment is, let's come back here with a letter, and we just will amend this to take it to whatever we need to. I spent a lot of time down there in the last week, met with a ton of people. You have people who are from one end of the spectrum to the other. You have people who are basically have an income and they're staying in hotels and enjoying, coming basically to the centers for friendship and meeting people, not for handouts. And yet you have people who have absolutely nothing and are staying in somebody's house or on a cot somewhere, and they really need these services. And I think we've got the opportunity through this to provide it. And $25,000, many of these people we talk to, some of them will tell you they're never going back. But then you see them a few days later and their sister or their aunt's back down there and it's not as bad as they thought it was. And maybe they'll be on here 3 or 4 months, but that they will go back. Some of them will never go back. But I think the $25,000 would be a good start. And then we have to figure out that even though we'll file it with FEMA, if we get it back, we'll put it in the home funds. If we don't get it back, it's money well spent.
I agree. Mayor, this is the need there is whether or not we get a reimbursement from FEMA. We can afford $25,000. We can probably afford $80,000. There's a lot of people out there that are giving money that are not going to get any reimbursements from anybody. And we as a city, if we can do something to help these people through this initial period of time, get back to some form of life, then let's do it.
Well, I totally agree that we've got a motion and a second to amend with $25,000. I don't think I called the vote on that, did I, Ms. Whitby?
No, sir.
Let's call the vote on
Mayor,
that.
can I?
Oh, sure.
Just one comment on the allocation of this money, whatever amount it is. In keeping with the former 2 suggestions, I would like to see if we can spread it over a larger population. I'd rather see personally 25 people or families get $1,000 each, then 3 families get a third of the $25,000 appropriation based on need and on
request being made first. But I don't think anybody needs $25,000, or a large portion of that up front, and left large number of other people. I don't have any idea how many people out there need money, but I would much rather see 25 families get $1,000 apiece, 5 families get $5,000 each, if there's a greater need.
And the only problem with that is that if you gave like the families $1,000 apiece, they'll still need a place to stay. So I think the route that we're taking, is the route to go.
We're going to trust Ms. Bowman and the distribution system that we set up, but at the same time, this is a way that we can review it and try to be as responsive as we can in the best way that we know how. And then we'll come back and accept suggestions if we run out of these funds. And we're still taking other funds, as I mentioned a little earlier, thanks to Frank Fletcher, who's leading the way in the Riverfront Hilton, or Riverfront Wyndham. But I want to take this, before I call this vote, and underline this community's appreciation to a tremendous crew of volunteers, a lot of staff. There have been individual council members who have been a part of this effort. Our senior center, Mr. Baxter and his staff, Margaret Powell, has been of terrific benefit in organizing volunteers. The community has outpoured its heart with a great number of volunteers. We now are relocating, and there will be more on this tomorrow. We're going to be broadcasting from the Ashley company. J.D. Ashley Jr. Personally came down and led us to a facility that's adjacent to the revenue office in Pike Plaza Shopping Center. So we're going to be consolidating all our clothing operation that is now in the community center, as well as the toiletries, the sundries, baby powder, our baby food, that's in the our senior center, the Hayes Center, as well as furniture, which had heretofore been simply going to the Ashley property in Pike Plaza. All that will be located in the Pike Plaza Shopping Center, but the food and the distribution of that, which we're feeding somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 to 200 people a day, will remain at our Hayes Center, as well as the services that are being provided from DHS and housing and jobs, and all those services that are currently being provided at the Hayes Center will remain there. So it's simply the relocation of the clothing store, and the clothing our shoppers have been on a downward trend, and we hope that when they become aware that we've got the best department store for clothes without a cash register, that they'll start coming over to the center, to the shopping center at Pike Plaza. But as far as food and the human services, they are going to remain at the Hayes Center. We want to underline our appreciation to all of involved, the North Rock Junior League, David Bevins in the medical, and Carla Grayson, and on. I could name literally hundreds of people that have really poured this city's heart out to those who were devastated. And with this, it's another continued example of how this community is one that cares about its neighbor. Alderwoman Roberts.
I got a question. You said food will remain at the Hayes Center. Are you talking about the pantry? Will that remain?
No, the pantry itself, the canned goods and others, will be over at the I don't know what we want to call it, Operation Deliver, but the shopping center.
Go at Pike Plaza.
Pike Plaza.
They'll continue to feed. They're feeding 150 to 200 twice a day.
Twice a day, morning and noon and evening. And we have churches that have volunteered to take on those feedings, and we are, Mr. Baxter tells me that either that or Ms. Powell, that we're through the weekend, this coming weekend, with churches who have agreed to serve. So the food is going to continue there, but the food pantry will move over to the shopping center.
One final question.
All right.
The people, how will they get to Pike Avenue, to the
There'll be a shuttle for those that need to go over there. We're finding many of them obviously are transporting themselves, but transportation is still an issue, and we discussed that, and so there'll be transportation available to shuttle back and forth, and we're going to work with Central Arkansas Transit. This will be our own transportation going back and forth to the shopping center, but we're going to continue to work with Central Arkansas Transit and others, to find ways to get them wherever they need to go. If we have to hire a cab, we've got some flexible money that has been donated by, good-hearted citizens, and so one way or another, we're going to address those needs when they arise, and try to consolidate these services in one area, with the exception of people services and food, remain at the Hayes Center. The pantries, the clothing store, the furniture, and we're asking for those who want to bring. We don't want any more clothes. Please don't bring us any more clothes. We're fine on clothes, but as far as furniture, usable furniture, baby stuff, food, canned goods, we're not asking for perishables, but canned goods, and those kinds of items over at the collection point next to the revenue office in the Pike Plaza Shopping Center. Anybody else?
Might I say one thing?
All right.
It's kind of close to our heart too, because we all live with a levee in North Little Rock.
We had a flood in 2000, and we sure know what those challenges are, and so our heart does go out to these folks, and we're just glad we are in a position to have a roof over our heads and that we can be a good neighbor. We're thankful for that, and thankful for the opportunity to show the kindness and the good-heartedness of this community. With that, on the motion to amend?
Gibson?
Yes.
Bryant?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Now the motion to adopt is amended, and seconded on the motion?
Gibson?
Yes.
Bryant?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Let's go to unfinished business.
Resolution 05-126, Mayor Hayes.
I'm going to hold 126 and 127 as per communications that I filed explaining or requesting by our code enforcement that I hold these, so let's go to 128.
A resolution declaring certain buildings, houses, and other structures located at 409 West 34th Street in the city of North Little Rock to constitute a public nuisance and condemning such structures, providing a period of time for property owner to abate said nuisance.
Second.
Is this a hearing?
Yes.
I think it is. 409 West 31st. Anyone here want to talk about 409 West 34? Yes, sir?
34.
West 34. Yes, sir?
Hello, sir. My name is Nathan Johnson. I'm an employee of Equity Trust Corporation, and I was here to request a 90-day extension on the ability to get the house back to code without the code enforcement and the proper permits in order to fix the house up in order to sell.
Mr. Wadley, you want to come to the microphone and tell us what your reaction to this is?
This is the first contact date I've had with this gentleman. However, Greg Allman contacted me today and said he was counsel for the property owner and was aware of the situation. He'd be here tonight, but evidently he's not. I'd recommend that we go ahead and do a condemnation on the property. He's owned it for 2 years. During that 2-year time, only one 90-day permit was pulled, and it was improperly pulled. It showed a repair value of $750, which is far from the amount needed. The contractor sent me a notification, which is my other concern, is his ability to do the work. The contractor sent me notification by writing on pencil on a piece of cardboard that he wanted to continue to work. We made contact with the contractor, Michael Jones, that he was the contractor / property manager. He lives in an apartment behind this burned out house. We executed a search warrant on the house for the purpose of inspection. Mr. Young was there with us. The building inspector went with us, and if you look at the photographs, the building inspector said that the sheetrock on the outside walls and load-bearing walls are going to have to be removed, possibly sheetrock from the ceiling. He didn't get any inspections, and being a burned-out house, the building inspector is concerned about the integrity of the structure, and that some of the wood that's covered up may be charred or burned.
So even what work is done to the property is not done properly. And so I'd recommend to go ahead and do a condemnation. If he wants to put up a bond to rehabilitate it, then he can do so by city ordinance. I would also like to caution that there's a zoning issue here because there's two residents on that single property. At the time they were both occupied, if they were, there would have been non-conforming or grandfathered in. But since the front structure has been gone for 2 years, there appears that he may have to go back and get permission to rebuild that front structure. Because then you would have two residential separate structures on that one lot.
It's based on that recommendation, it's still before the council.
Well, I mean, have we got a motion yet?
No. Is there a second?
Mayor, just one thing I wanted the council to be aware of. I spoke with Mr. Johnson briefly before he came here. I think he can speak as to maybe the interest of his business before any kind of transactional arrangement is reached between Mr. Johnson and the city of North Little Rock. You need to be aware that he is bearing a power of attorney for the owner, but it's not notarized, so in my opinion it's ineffective. Also, he is an employee of Equity Trust Company, but he said he's not an officer of that company, so his ability to bind his company to an obligation is questionable.
Well, let me ask you now, repeat that approach that they could take if they want to post a bond.
Once the property is condemned, they can post a $5,000 bond and pull a permit to complete the rehabilitation. According to the ordinance, it allows 45 days. I believe in the past y'all have extended that 45 days. But it may take him, it depend on what planning says, 30 days just to get permission to rebuild if he can on that property because of two residential structures.
Well, so there is a remedy if we adopt this that the property owner has with regard to posting a bond and trying to seek permission to rebuild.
Yes, sir.
I have a motion and second that we adopt. Is there any further discussion?
I just wondered how long has Equity Trust Corporation owned this piece of property?
2 years.
2 years.
Like in 10 days being 2 years.
On the motion?
Gibson?
Yes.
Bryant?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
If motion's adopted, so you do have an opportunity if your employer has a desire to try to rehabilitate this property, visit with Mr. Wadley, and there is a procedure. 2 years is a long time, but we still like things to be built. We don't like to tear them down. So, if y'all are serious, then there is a way. Thank you. Next item.
Ordinance 0550, Mayor Hayes.
I'm going to hold that until next time, and then I'll be ready to move on that with regard to the plumbing and gas section amendments. Next item.
Ordinance 0551, Mayor Hayes.
I want to hold that again.
Ordinance 0559, Alderman Berry.
This is an ordinance granting a conditional use for a daycare center in a C4 zone for certain real property located at 2204 Parkway Drive in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. Third and final reading.
I have an amendment that also will go along with that amendment of Bix DHS, the city of North Little Rock Requirements Playground site, to install a curb on that track.
All right, I take that as a motion to amend. Is there a second?
I'll second that, but I want to talk about this curb thing just a minute.
All right, motion made and seconded. You have the floor, Alderman Gibson.
We're asking them to build a curb out in the right-of-way. Is that correct?
That's what it looks like to me.
Well, my question being is that, we got, I think that based on if they bring them in off of Parkway from the north and come through to the south and go out, you got a road across the street there, but you got employee parking down there that'll hold 2 employees down at this south end of the property. 2 cars. Unless you can get a 24 by 24 space, I don't know how you're going to get more. You might be able to get 3 cars in there if nobody opens their doors. So you got that problem down on that end. And then you're asking them to go out here into the right of way, and it looks like quite a bit of the way out into the right-of-way, and build a curb, and so that would provide them some space in between there. But I'm not sure we want people building curbs out in the right-of-way.
All curbs are in the right-of-way.
Not all curbs in the right-of-way.
All curbs.
Oh, not all curbs in the right-of-way. A lot of curbs are at the property line.
All of our curbs are going.
Most curbs are in the right-of-way.
Most curbs are in the right.
99%.
But do we normally move one out 10 foot into the right-of-way?
Normally, they are all in the right-of-way because they're adjacent to the edge of the paved surface.
This one's in the middle.
I'd like to make a couple of recommendations as to options. How many parking places are required at this facility?
Well, if it's probably 4 to 6.
Don't you have the microphone, Mr. Wall?
Will require employee parking and then drop-off space. As y'all can tell, there's not enough room in this for designated parking, and it's gravel. Traffic engineer may be here, he drew that, but there's not enough space there to do proper angle parking. It's very tight space, as you're aware.
24 by 24, right?
3 cars at the most. And I don't believe you can handle 40 children with 3 employees. I hope not. Now, you could park some maybe on the back side of that curb up there, but our requirement is on site parking, not on right-of-way parking.
Got a motion and second to amend.
Let's get this first amendment in.
On the motion?
Well, do you mean number 5 or number 4? Number 4 was
Actually, to bring in the new amendment.
We're going to get the new
the
amendment.
whole new one, okay.
Bring in this in
Okay,
first.
all right.
On the
Gibson,
Yes.
Bryant,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Berry,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes?
Height,
Yes.
and Witcher.
Yes, Mayor, question, please.
Alderman Gibson, you finished?
Yeah.
All right.
I am curious about Parkway Drive. Is that designated as a state highway? Or?
It's a local street.
So it is a local street? Okay.
We did. And
All right, we've got an amended piece of legislation. What's our pleasure?
I'd like to ask Alderman Gibson about some alternatives to the plan as shown here.
You got the floor.
Brother Gibson. The curb where it's drawn on this plan obviously would not allow for any parallel parking or perpendicular parking or parking period between the roadway and the curb, unless people were parking on the street, it would seem. The other option would be to park the cars as it was originally proposed without a curb, perpendicular to the building, and not providing any safe access for the children to be loaded or unloaded. The purpose in trying to add this curb in the first place is to allow for not additional parking, but a way to approach the front of the building and let children out without having to back out into that street. So if there's a requirement for X number of spaces of parking, the only other option for additional parking, other than at the end of the building there, would have to be if that curb was placed close enough to the building to only allow one-way traffic between the building and the curb, with either probably only parallel parking would be allowed then on the street if you're trying to get all your parking on the property. But I would think some of the right-of-way should be accessible to parking.
you could probably make your load and unload be one way.
Exactly.
One way going south, and then you could, I don't think you're going to be able to diagonally park, because you don't want cars backing up, back into where the traffic's going to come, is you're probably going to have to end up, you probably could get 4 parking places on the back side of that curb, between the curb and the building. But they're going to be the kind people hate to park in. They got to pull into them, and they can't angle into it.
And that's if you put the curb at the...
Like the curb where it is, but then the problem comes is that if that, for any reason, Parkway's ever widened, it's got a 60-foot right-of-way there, you've taken up about 10 foot of that, well, it's 30 minus 16, you've taken up 14 foot, looks like, of the right-of-way with the curb and the area behind it. So if you allowed 4 parking spots on the back side of that, you probably could only get 3 because it's 80 foot long and you got to have distance on both ends to see. So you could probably only get 3 on the back side of that curve.
We probably could resolve a number of these issues. I think the applicant's here, and she could answer directly some of these questions.
Okay.
And address some of these concerns.
Yes, ma'am. You want to come to the microphone, please? Tell us who you are.
Good evening. My name is Carmel Boyd, and I'm trying to open up a daycare center on Parkway Drive. And I do have 4 employees. 2 of them are my daughters. They still at home with me, and I'm seeking to hire another employee that I'm pretty sure she will be driving. So I know that the parking area that I have probably hold 3 cars, 3 vehicles. So whatever it is that I need to do for the entrance and the exit, I'm willing to do that.
You're only driving 2 cars, you would only be driving in 1 car to work?
Well, my daughters, they live with me, and we're driving, in 1 car in my vehicle, but I am going to employ another employee, so she probably will be driving. So that's 2 vehicles that I know of.
So if we change this, it becomes a daycare forever, so if someone else comes in there and they have 4 or 5, 10 vehicles, then the usage...
That's going to get 10 in terms
Right,
of...
I'm just being facetious, but, if we approve this as it is with her saying she's got 2 employees or 3, after it becomes a daycare center, then there's nothing the city council can do about.
Well, if we could get 3 on the end and 3...
There has to be a limit to how many cars you can park there.
Yeah, I mean, you have those parking spaces, and then once they're full, there's no other cars to park there.
Is that not right? 3 on the curb and 3 in the line.
Again, I'm asking, is there a requirement for X number of parking spaces?
1 for each employee, 1 parking place for each employee.
Mr. Walls, say this one more time.
Okay. This was laid out by the Planning Commission as events that could happen on this property. I showed them how you could get 4 angled at very sharp angle on the front. Because it's gravel, they didn't want to do that. They figured the front is where people are going to drop off, so they're just going to let them come in and out. But the main thing is they'll be pulling out onto the street rather than backing into the street, which the commission did not want. They just didn't have a good solution. You suggested at the last meeting a curb to control, I believe, the driving in and out of this center, but you could only get the 2 employee parking and probably 4 or 5 tightly angled cars for drop-off.
Mr. Boyd, it shows 2 different things here. There appears to be on one map quite a bit of property behind it, and the other map, nothing behind it.
Railroad embankment.
And so this isn't the red. This line right here is not the back of the property line.
That's the only part they can use. They're going to playground here, parking here, and everybody's going to pull in and out. Unless you play at the curb.
I think what that is, Mark, is that railroad driveway.
See, I was looking at the map on Exhibit A.
All right, we've got an amended piece of legislation right now with this, as it reflects. What's your pleasure, Alderman Berry, or someone other than... Anybody got any ideas?
I want clarification. You're gonna have 4 employees, is that correct?
Yeah.
And how many students, or how many kids you're gonna have there, up to 40?
40.
So is that within the requirements by
I
DHS?
wasn't based on the age of the kids.
This is for 12 hours a day now.
I know that.
So,
But 1 employee per 10 kids.
It's based on the age of the kids, is it not?
Right.
So what
It's a
age are the
ratio.
kids gonna be?
Well, it's infants to infants and toddlers.
So how many kids at that age group?
Well, I'm not for sure how many kids, how many infants I'm going to have. I may get more toddlers than infants, but it requires more for infants. You know, the ratio is lower for infants.
So if you have mostly infants, then do you have to increase the number of
Yes.
employees?
Yes.
Now we're talking maybe 6 or 7 employees.
plus you're talking about 60 hours, 5 12s.
Now we're talking about 6 or 7 parking spots, parking places.
But she can set a limit as to how many infants. She can set a limit as to how many infants she's going to care for. She may be licensed for 5 infants, and she may decide based on her staff she can't care for no more than 2. That's normally what they do, you know, some that I know. So she can set a limit as to how many infants she's going to take in.
This last council meeting, or recent council meeting, I think we were having some difficulty then. Is this, and it was referred to the subdivision committee. Mr. Boyles, did you refer to this to the subdivision committee, and this is what we came back with?
Yes, sir, it is. That's the best they could come up with.
What we need to do is either amend or vote or move on. Does anybody have any thoughts? Right now we have an amended piece of legislation. I don't have any motion in front of me to adopt as amended. So with that...
I'll make a motion to adopt as amended unless Mrs. Robinson has a better suggestion.
All right, motion made, second to adopt as amended. Now we're on discussion on this, on the motion to adopt as amended. Excuse me, Mr. Lowell.
She was just enlightening me that DHS has reduced her number to 30. Well, that would mean less traffic, and I'd like to, you might want to make that as an attached condition, up to 30 kids. Perhaps that's what your limit is.
Yeah, the restrooms.
All right, Mr. City Attorney, this is obviously up to Alderman Berry. We're talking about reducing, or putting in somewhere not to exceed 30 clients or youngsters, or however you want to phrase it.
In requirement number 3 of section 2 currently limits the applicant to 40 children. That number could be changed from 40 to 30. It's
Have a
in
motion to
Wilson
that
County.
effect?
So moved.
Yeah. On the motion to amend from 40 to 30?
Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
All right, now we got it amended twice. What's your pleasure, Alderman Berry?
I think I take care of the parking lot. Move to adopt as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher. On the emergency, Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Mayor, this is me picky, but Miss Boyd, do you live on Lynn Lane? Miss Boyd, do you live on Lynn Lane?
Yes.
Up the top of the hill?
Right.
It says application was duly made to Miss Boyd at 4701 Lyne. That's a misspelling of Lynn Lane, and that's something that needs to be changed to.
Ms. Whitby, will you make that correction? Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next item, we're in new business.
Resolution 05-129, Mayor Hay.
Please call it.
Resolution reappointing Eddie Powell to the Senior Citizens Commission.
Move for adoption.
Second.
On the motion?
Yes.
Just one
Double his
second.
salary.
Just 1 second. Okay, yes.
Good.
Bryant.
Senior.
Yes.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Resolution 05-130, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution reappointing James C. Roberts to the Senior Citizens Commission.
Move for adoption. Second.
On the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
And
Let
Res-
me, before we go to the next one, Jim Roberts is in the audience. Jim, we certainly appreciate that. Obviously, Mr. Powell too, but he perhaps is at home. Thank to both of you as well as the task force in helping us shape improvements to our center, and certainly again too for allowing us to make your home our home on behalf of our neighbors. Thank you. Next item,
Resolution 05-131, Mayor Hayes.
please call it.
A resolution reappointing Charles Jameson to the Advertising and Promotion Commission.
So move for adoption.
Second.
On the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Resolution 05-132, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution appropriating the expenditure of $20,933.84 for payment of expenses in connection with the August 9, 2005 special election for sales and use tax levy.
Move for adoption.
Second.
On the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Resolution 05-133, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract to sell certain real estate owned by the city to Main Street Argento.
Move for adoption.
On the motion.
Gibson.
Mayor, I just have one question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Over in Section 3, the city council reserves the right to approve any and all development of the subject property. And I would probably be more comfortable if we had the word sale or development of that property.
Fine with me. I take that as a motion to amend. Is there any problem with that on our grants? Okay.
Second.
So that's to approve
Any
it.
and all sale or development, just put sale or in Section 3 there after any and
Okay.
all.
On the motion to amend, Alderman Gibson's motion and Alderman Height second.
Okay.
Okay. Could we say sales or assignments?
Whatever you want to put there.
Well,
You won't get married.
I mean, the last time I had
We'll
an
take that as-
assignment,
we'll take that as a friendly
as
amendment.
a senior in college, I didn't like it.
I'll second his motion.
We'll take that as a friendly amendment, so it refers to sales or assignments.
Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
yes.
All right, now motion to adopt is amended.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Resolution 05-134, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into an engineering contract with HKS Incorporated to provide architectural services for the design and construction of a baseball stadium.
Do I have a motion?
Move for adoption.
Second.
On the
May I
motion.
ask a question? Why was 2.25 on page 2 deleted?
Mr. Smith? Alderman Gibson has a question.
The architect shall submit to the owner a preliminary estimate of construction costs based on current area volume or similar conceptual estimating techniques. That was struck out, and also any adjustments to that estimate were stricken. Stricken, stricken, stricken.
2.32.
Letter while you're looking at.
2.25.
The 2.25, tell me where you're looking at.
Page 2,
Okay.
contract. But 2-5, 2.3-2.
Okay.
Question is, why was that stricken?
Looks like it's normal boilerplate that someone would type up and then,
Well, it asks if they will submit a preliminary estimate of construction costs, and our construction manager's doing that.
okay?
This is probably duties that they would do. Our construction manager will give us our estimate of cost.
that the same way with 232?
Okay, and who is our construction manager?
East Harding and Hensel Phelps.
Did we hire them sometime?
Yeah.
We hired them?
Yeah.
Okay.
They've been selected, excuse me. We have not brought a contract to you yet. It's in negotiations right now, and I'm working with Bob East trying to negotiate a contract that I think is acceptable to the mayor, to the city council. So that's where we are on that.
Should we do that before we do this, to make sure that 2.3 is in that contract? I mean, are we getting, I don't know, I'm just asking, are we getting the cart before the horse by hiring the architect before we hire somebody to supervise them?
No. The architect's a boss.
So I guess I have a question then. Would it be the construction manager's responsibility to...
Why do we need a construction manager?
Keep the cost within the budget?
Exactly. Well, our construction manager is at risk. Most of ours aren't, but this one is at risk, which means that before we go into, we dig the first shovel, we'll know, they'll give us a guaranteed price of what its maximum is going to be.
Okay.
So we'll be covered there. We'll know what our budget is going in.
Good.
How can they start work on it if we don't, how can architects start work if we don't know what the money, how much money it's going to be?
Well, we can't figure out how much it's going to cost until we have the plans done. It's kind of like building anything else. If you don't know if you're going to put in power windows and power door seats, you know, then you're not going to know how much to price the car out. So we have to do the plans first in order to be able to bid all the work.
One of the things that, you know, that are unfortunately, and I hope they don't have a significant impact, but, you know, we have a guesstimated income of about $32 to $33 million. You know, we have $5 million that's committed toward the senior center. You know, the remainder will go to the ballpark. And I have indicated, based on a recommended budget about 3 months ago, when we had, you know, some estimations given of $27.6 million. And we all know what happened last week. There may be some variations, and as such, we may have to alter our designs or try to raise some funds through other naming rights or other approaches. So this is still somewhat of a moving target, both with what we want and what we're able to afford and how we may have to change it, because all we're going to commit to is that, you know, roughly those numbers that we think will reflect the amount of income that we'll achieve. So we've got to go forward, you know, based on what is somewhat of a guesstimated budget, but I think we all feel pretty comfortable that we'll reach that for both of the projects.
Just for your information, we've got the architects are going to be here at the next council meeting to give you an update on where they are as far as the drawings are going, you know, to answer questions that any of you might have, also to answer questions from anybody in the public. And then the second meeting in October, our plan is to present a piece of legislation to you to approve the schematic design, basically what it's going to look like, what the floor plan's going to be. So that's the schedule for the next 6 or 8 weeks.
And I'm assuming Exhibit A is referred to, which is McClellan Consulting Engineers, is referred to back in here somewhere as services they'll provide.
Right. They'll be hired by the architect and paid by the architect, and that's the only thing, the only consultant that's not included in the 7% that we pay the architect. All the other consultants will be included in the 7%. The electrical engineering, the you know, the interior decorators, you know, everything is covered except for the civil engineering. Excuse me? I don't know about that, Jason. Do you? Say again. There was something struck in here about arbitration.
Yes, I know. Of course, we prefer non-binding mediation to binding arbitration, and I know that's one preference out of our office, that as opposed to arbitration, which is boilerplate language out of Texas contracts, we'd prefer mediation.
We'd rather, if it was a problem, we'd rather go to court.
We'd rather have that than have a binding arbitration.
I saw that, it puts a limitation. If I understand, the most that we can pay out, they can pay out under this contract is going to be $25,000 for these two contracts too. McClellan Engineering. 18 and 7, is that what you read?
That's just under civil engineering.
1213-1 shall not exceed 18,000. 1213-2 shall not exceed 7,000. So that's the 25,000. That's the most above the 7% that this contract calls for, except.
Now, it's over here somewhere else, Martin. I'm not sure exactly where it is because there's several different figures. One figure is from the civil engineer is for replatting the property. One figure is for the actual civil engineering work. One figure is for something else, and they all add up to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $118,000, I believe, is what the civil.
And that's above the 7%.
Exactly. Everything's very standard here. Actually, I negotiated this fee down. They wanted more of a fee, and I negotiated down what we consider in Central Arkansas as a fair architectural fee. And the reimbursables are all fairly standard. So, I mean, basically everything is real standard.
Good job, Mr. Smith.
Okay, I got on page 13. I find the 87,150.
Okay, those three numbers added up. Those are three different jobs, and they all add up to be 100 and some thousand. And it could actually go higher than that if we had to. If we got down and dug down so deep, we realized we were going to have to put in some sort of special kind of pump, then we'll have to pay more on that. And we're hoping we're not going to have to go there. This architectural firm is very.
No problem, just take your time.
All right,
All right, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry. Parker.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Resolution 05-135, Alderman Thomas.
Call it, please, and Alderman Robinson, they want her name on there.
I'd like to be added to the...
Without objection, add Alderman as co-sponsor.
Yes, sir. A resolution authorizing and directing the mayor and city clerk to accept the low bid and enter into a contract with Kogar Construction Company, North Little Rock, Arkansas, for street, drainage, and sidewalk improvements, Short Street, Atkinson Street to Post Street, Poe Addition, in the amount of $150,621.15, 31st year 2005 CDBG program.
Move for the adoption.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Resolution 05-136, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with R.W. Vett Incorporated to provide engineering services related to participation in the Plum Point Power Project.
Can I get a motion second? Mr. Kurtz, you want to come to the microphone?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
You want to just explain a little bit about what this is and how much that might be?
The owner's engineer is essentially the representative of the owners during all phases of construction of the power plant, including all the initial design work that's done before we actually decide to build the power plant. And what this agreement is for is all the owners have collectively got together and selected R.W. Vett to serve as the owner's engineer. The owner's engineer will be there from inception all the way through the construction. So if we decide to participate in the project by the end of this year, then we would, this owner's engineer would serve us through the 4 years of the construction period. This particular agreement only covers some initial work that's to be performed prior to the financial closing, which is anticipated in the latter part of this year, probably around the December timeframe. So this particular agreement covers a cost of about $170,000. Our share of that is approximately $34,000. The council has previously authorized a total, as related to Plum Point, of $115,000. That was $40,000 approximately 2 or 3 months ago, and then an additional $75,000. We have expended to date approximately $30,000, so we've got $85,000 remaining. This contract is for about $34,000. So I anticipate that by year's end, we will still be within the amount of monies that the council has authorized to spend towards Plum Point.
So in other words, this contract will not require any additional financial authorization at this time. It's within the authorizations that we've given you up to this point toward our making a decision on our involvement in Plum Point.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Alderman Gibson?
Church, I thought we were dealing with about 10% of this plant. We were looking at purchasing about approximately 10% of the output of this plant.
Well, that is true. Our allocation right now is somewhere between 60 and 100 megawatts. That's what we have requested. This cost allocation is based on 60 megawatts. However, the developer himself is taking approximately 200 megawatts. So that reduces the amount that essentially increases our ratio of the remaining share of the plant. The developer himself is not going to hire an owner's engineer. They're not participating in the owner's engineering project.
According to this, we're paying 20.2%.
That's correct.
Of the total, or twice of what I thought was our participation in the plant. So actually, we're paying a portion of 80% of the plant.
Well, if you take 600 megawatts, for instance, and you take away 200, that's 400 megawatts left. And then there's one other party, which is an electric cooperative, that at this point has not committed to participation in the owner's engineer. And their take is about 50 megawatts.
Okay. It fits within our perimeters we've got on the money, so where are we?
On the motion?
Gibson?
Yes.
Bryant?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Ordinance 0565, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
This is an ordinance changes the name of Darlene Drive, and Vauxhall Drive to Frenchman Loop in the city of North Little Rock. First reading.
Suspend rules, place on second reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson?
Yes.
Bryant?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance changes the name of Darlene Drive, and Vauxhall Drive to Frenchman Loop in the city of North Little Rock. First and second reading.
Mayor, I'm assuming this is met the requirements of the people signing the petition of the owners of the property.
That's, Mr. Boyles, you want to answer that? I asked the same question, and everybody Mr. Marvin made this recommendation. They were real short streets and felt like it would certainly be much
The owners
better.
were notified about this. They requested it as well. It didn't quite follow the policy. It got platted under these three names. We're asking that it be changed to a short name for the loop street.
That's fine.
And how about suspension of the rules?
So, yeah.
Move the rules be suspended. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Berry on the motion.
Gibson?
Yes.
Bryant?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance changes the name of Darlene Drive, and Vauxhall Drive to Frenchman Loop in the city of North Little Rock. Third and final reading.
On the question?
Gibson?
Yes.
Bryant?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
On the emergency, Gibson?
Yes.
Bryant?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Ordinance 0566, Alderman Gibson.
Please.
This is an ordinance authorizing the issue of a promissory note to provide short-term financing on amendment number 78 to the Arkansas Constitution for the acquisition, construction, and installation of real and tangible personal property, providing for the payment of the principal or the interest on the note, and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto. First reading.
Move to suspend rules and place on the second reading.
Second. On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry. Parker.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing the issue of a promissory note to provide short-term financing under Amendment Number 78 to the Arkansas Constitution for the acquisition, construction, and installation of real and tangible personal property, providing for the payment of the principal of and interest on the note, and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto. Second reading.
If there's this is replacing the money for the main community center, buying the fire truck and the additional money to be needed for North Heights, and to set aside the money to match a state grant that we're not going to let slip away in the next budget.
Second. On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing the issue of a promissory note to provide short-term financing under Amendment Number 78 to the Arkansas Constitution for the acquisition, construction, and installation of real and tangible personal property, providing for the payment of the principal of and interest on the note, and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto. Third and final reading.
On the question?
Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry. Parker.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
On the emergency, Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry. Parker.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
That concludes new business.
Thank you very much. Before I ask any council member if they have any comments, I want to just make a couple announcements. One, Ms. Whitby's, one of her ladies has agreed to try to be the first point of contact. She's also agreed to have a phone number that goes to the city clerk's office for any questions regarding donations or needs relative to Hurricane Katrina. And that number is 501-340-5319. That's 501-340-5319. We're also connecting our website, www.northlittlerock.ar.gov, for anyone that wants any information via the internet. I want to remind everyone again this Saturday, September 15th, Bark and Park. And one other, on September 29th, we'll have a chance to remind you again, the Police Athletic League is sponsoring a fish fry. We've got Officer Paul Hampton, who can be found at 537-6208 or 744-5404. That's really quick, but these are on your agenda for any of those who might want to refer to those items and those opportunities. With that, any council member?
We got a happy announcement.
All right.
My daughter gave birth to my second granddaughter last Thursday morning in El Dorado, which ties me with you, Mayor, with the number of granddaughters that we have. Lillian Claire Thomas was born last Thursday morning, so now by virtue of me having a grandson, I've exceeded the number of grandchildren that I have versus you, Mayor. So anyway, Holly gave birth to Lillian Claire last Thursday morning. All right, everybody's doing fine.
Well, we want
the grandparents.
We want to congratulate you, Alderman Height, but we need to point out that my granddaughter will be 1 October 13th, so we'll be happy to announce that first birthday as it gets a little closer.
I'll have
pictures
next council meeting also.
Post on the web.
Mayor,
Alderman Witcher.
the Senior Citizens Task Force will be having a public hearing at the Hayes Center tomorrow at 10 o'clock, and then again at 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
Both at the Hayes Center.
Both at the Hayes Center.
We're asking anyone that has any ideas, please. There will be some other hearings.
Yeah, the next one is actually at Sherman Park.
7 p.m. at Sherman Park in North Heights.
Right.
All right, please attend. We're wanting to make sure we spend your money wisely. Alderman,
two things in the happenings. Taste of the Town and Little Rock Chamber event is on the 21st. The 22nd is the Market Arkansas Business Expo at the Alto Arena. The other thing, those of you out there who play tennis, on the 23rd through the 25th, UALR Invitational Men's and Women's College Tournament will be held at Burns Park Tennis Center. If you're interested in seeing some really great college kids play tennis, then that's September 23 through 25 at Burns Park. Thank you.
And don't forget the neighbors that we have. Any help that you can give us, we're certainly receptive. We're not asking for clothes. We're doing pretty good on clothes, but anything else, the facility next to the revenue office in Pike Plaza. With that, the microphone's open.
My name is James Ard, and I always hate to be first because you get a little edgy. Some of the things we can do, I know I've taken on this as a project. I'm not able to go down with the hurricane, get a lot of trouble, but my next door neighbor had to go. He works for Energy with Perry, and I've taken on the project of keeping his yard cut for him and things of that nature because his wife doesn't usually like to get out and cut grass. So those that cannot go out and go down here could do things like that. We have a lot of these people that had to go down here. What I have to say tonight is something I really regret saying, but I think it needs to be said. Mayor, I've talked to you about this. Now I'm going to bring it to the council. By the way, I don't think we're on TV tonight. I think they're taping us and going to throw us later. There's a contract coming up for MIMS. Before I go any further, let me say that MIMS does a great job when they respond to your house or an accident. But they have some wannabe cops. They like to use that ambulance and turn them sirens on, them flashing lights, and pull you over and cause problems. And since they're the only ambulance in town, you have to put up with it. And also, as I heard from 2 employees, if they get upset with you, they can put your name on a list, and when your address or your name pops up for service, they'll wait till the police get there before they come if they think you're a threat to them. There's a gentleman in Texas and another gentleman here in Arkansas that has encountered problems with this. The gentleman in Texas may come back, but it's going to be a month or so because he's waiting for his grandbaby to get born. The mayor can relate to that, so Mr. Alderman Hyde. But the mayor and I have agreed that if he writes a letter and tells his situation and the other people come forward and tell how MIMS have abused the privilege of the ambulances, that he'll let the letter be read. And all I'm saying to the council is, let's let another ambulance service bid on this job. Again, I'm not saying they don't do good work, but they don't need cops out there or policemen, if you may, that want to do stuff a little shady. I thank you all very much and have a good evening.
Microphone's still open.
Good evening. Just a brief announcement. Tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. we'll be having a press conference at the Police and Fire Training Center to announce an award that the department has received, a Community Policing Award that will be presented at the International Chiefs Association meeting in Miami later this month. So we'd love to have any of you that can come. In fact, any of the members of the public that would like to attend.
It's obviously a press conference is to announce that. It's a designation that we received in competition with over 100 other communities. I think 160 or 70 communities, and without stealing the chief's thunder, we were in fairly broad competition, and I'll let him tell you tomorrow how successful we were.
I think you'll be impressed with the other 4 that's named with us. Thank you.
What time is that, Chief?
11 a.m. tomorrow.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
On the motion.
I think that...
Sorry. I got somebody else. I'm sorry. Got a motion, but we're going to hold that for a vote. Yes, ma'am. State your name.
I'm sorry, my name is Tanya Heckman, and I'm president of the North Little Rock Gymnastics Booster Club. And so I just wanted to thank y'all for what y'all done for the team. I know it's been kind of a long battle. but we're very appreciative of that, and we are actually holding our first meet on October 28th and 29th. And when we get that schedule down, we would love to send y'all a tentative schedule to y'all and ask y'all to come and watch our gymnastics team perform.
Thank you. On the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Bryant.
Yes.
Robinson. Thomas. Barry. Parker. Height. Alderman Height.
I was thinking about my granddaughter.
That's the first time I've heard that.